Anwar Ibrahim, welcome to the program, a free man at last.
Thank you, Christian. It's a privilege.
How do you feel? I mean, this is the second time that you've been in and out after long spells in what you call trumped-up charges. Just how does it feel to be out this time?
Exhilarating. From the prison to the palace, invited by the king to tell me that these are trumped-up charges, travesty of justice. I am giving you the full pardon because I believe you are innocent and this conspiracy must end.
That's really remarkable because obviously it was the king who had to grant you this pardon. Nobody else could. But what's really remarkable, Mr. Anwar,
yes,
is this turnaround from your mentor, Mahathir Mohamad, who's been elected again, who ran on a platform of getting you freed. But let's not forget who's the first one who put you in jail. What's going on?
Right. Well, he came, met me at the court and said, look, let's move on. We have a problem in this country, blatantly corrupt Najib, and the system is crumbling. Can we work together? I was very apprehensive, but I was exceeding polite, thanking him for the visit, and said that I will think it over. Then I sent my friends to talk to him. I will only work on a reform agenda. If he's committed in writing to work together to reform the institutions in this country so that the transformation towards democracy is done.
You say that you want to reform the system and keep politics out of the justice system. You yourself say that you've been a victim of a politicized justice system and the politics of political revenge. So let me read to you what Mahathir Mohamad said in the late 90s when you were fired. He said, "I cannot accept a man who is a sodomist as leader of the country." And you have said that you forgive him. Do you actually forgive him? How can you forgive him and trust him after all that he has done to you?
No, Mahathir has said repeatedly that he was misled. He did not take action. It was the ploy of some others. Well, it may not sound convincing, but he said he made a mistake. He should not have sacked or dismissed Anwar from office, and it was a blunder on his part. I think I have to then decide whether to stick to the old enmity or move on. And I think for the sake of Malaysia, once he's committed to the reform agenda and that the entire team selected from those reformists within the coalition, I am quite confident that he remains committed and we will continue to monitor. I said I do not intend to serve in the cabinet. I will continue to function effectively as the voice of conscience for democracy, for reform, including an independent judiciary.
You say that you need to move on and he needs to move on. But I wonder if you can move on from what you said about him 20 years ago. You know, when he fired you, you basically unleashed a massive political, I see you laughing, you unleashed a massive political movement against him. You called him insane, senile, and unfit to lead. Okay, senile, that was 20 years ago. He's now 92 years old. Do you take back those words? Do you think it's still true?
Well, I meant that. Of course, it was a response to his the Trump-up charges, the continued incessant propaganda in the media, calling me an Israeli agent, an American agent, a CIA agent, a sodomist, etc., etc. I then have to mount an effective challenge towards him. And but you know, in the last year or so, he has been totally committed to fighting the excesses of the government. And he realized now, being out of the government, being in the opposition, how the media, the judiciary, the entire enforcement agencies were used against him.
You know, people remember him when he first came to power. You know, it's under his rule that the Asian tiger sprang to life, that Malaysia became a real player in your region. it's crumbling a little bit with all the corruption allegations and all of that. But I wonder if Mr. Mahathir can get over some of the very controversial sayings and thoughts that he has had in his political life. For instance, let us play this soundbite of what he said about, you know, some of his rather zany worldviews. Let me play this for you. It's from 2003.
Today, the Jews rule this world by proxy. They get others to fight and die for them.
Well, that's his version of what he thinks about Jews around the world, you know, the typical Nazi-era conspiracy theories. I mean, he says some very, very insulting things to a wide range of people. Does he still hold those views?
Well, he has alienated a lot of friends in the process because he was angry with the fact that many of them did lend the support for me. I don't share that view or his condemnation of racist or anti-Semitic expressions. But I could only say that from the reports from Aziza, my wife, who's leading the party, our party, and our colleagues now in the coalition, clearly has avoided completely these sort of comments, and he has stuck to the reform agenda. He has said, for example, the anti-corruption agency must be independent, the judiciary must be free, the media must be free. I mean, this is spectacular. You can see the media these days, although it's a recent period of euphoria. So I don't believe, Christian, to be fair, you could speak on his past statements, although I do not, frankly, share those outbursts.
You just mentioned Aziza, your wife, and of course she is the party leader, and your daughter is also a leading politician. There are some in the West, some human rights organizations, who wonder whether if you become either in the cabinet or if Mahathir hands over to you, as he said he wants to in 2 years, whether they can continue their top political roles, or would it be a conflict of interest?
Christian, firstly, I have declined any position in the government. I want to be free, working with the party and with the leadership, but not to hold office. My daughter, who happens to be the most senior, second most senior leader in the party, has also declined, has opted not to function or be a member of the cabinet, partly because Aziza is already a deputy prime minister. Now, in the event I assume the office of Prime Minister, naturally Aziza would step down. So I don't think that is, frankly, an issue. Aziza had to fight all these years, particularly in the 10.5 years of my incarceration. And she deserved to be where she is. And Nurul Izzah, my daughter, was not given a special treatment. She had to struggle. She lost her time as a teenager. She had to struggle to fight, of course, for the freedom of her father, but for democracy. And I think we have achieved that.
Anwar Ibrahim, I'm going to hold you to what you just said about Aziza, your wife. Really? She has to step down? Aren't we in a new pro-women civilizational moment? Why can't she hold on to leadership?
Well, she can. But that happens to be the consensus of the party leader, and she knows that. And you know, the king said one thing which was remarkable. The king repeated 5 times. He says, Anwar, you have such a wonderful wife. You must never forget that fact.
Well, I hope she won't let you forget it.
She struggled in your defense. And when I offered her, the king actually offered her the premiership because she is leader of the party, and the entire candidates contested using our party symbol. So she was given the first option, and she declined, saying that this was our understanding to put Mahathir first. And then she said, when asked by the king, what do you want? My only request is the freedom of my husband. Isn't that amazing, Christian?
It is amazing. Yes, it is amazing. What was it like all those years in prison?
Oh, a dreadful experience. No media, no TV, no radio, no newspapers. I was allowed to read books, so I was an avid reader of virtually everything I can find. Chinese philosophy, or American history, or Islam or Hinduism, whatever, the novels, the classics, rereading the Shakespeare. So I was kept busy, very busy, preoccupied with reading.
And you have emerged into the full glaring sunlight of the Trump presidency and the New World Order. How do you assimilate, how do you assess the Trump effect on the world and what it might mean for your country?
Well, the foreign policy position of the United States is something not attractive to me. I mean, which is unfortunately showing very little regard for the need for reform, democracy, or transformation. But I think now it takes these countries. I mean, what has happened in the Malaysian experience is very pertinent, significant in the sense that we can now show, after years of despair, after the Arab Spring, that there can be an effective experiment towards democracy through the ballot box. And then with this mandate to fight excesses or extremism or fanaticism and grow into a multiracial, multicultural, vibrant democracy in Malaysia. I think that is our focus in terms of our relationship with foreign countries, particularly the Muslim countries.
Anwar Ibrahim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Christian.